Today I'm presenting our analysis of the traditional international money transfer process. This represents the slow, opaque, pre-fintech baseline that modern digital-first platforms like Revolut aim to disrupt. To understand why the change is necessary, we must look at the three critical pain points of the current SE's baseline. The first is speed. A single transfer takes anywhere from 3 to 5 business days because messaging, compliance checks, and the final settlements run sequentially across multiple institutions with zero real time tracking. The second is cost. Banks remain the costliest channel for moving money globally. While the global average cost it sits around 6%, traditional banks average a staggering 15%. This is driven by hidden foreign exchange margins and flat fees sliced off by every intermediary involved. The third is visibility. This process is entirely opaque. The sender has no way to track where their money is at any given moment, and the recipient frequently receives far less than what was originally sent due to unmapped intermediary cuts. Before diving into the workflow, let's look at the methodology behind our process architecture. For following standard business process management life cycles, we documented these SE states during the discovery and analysis phase. This ensures that our eventual redesign tackles evidence based limitations rather than mere assumptions. We specifically utilized a BPM and collaboration diagram rather than a single process orchestration. A collaboration model allows us to view independent organizations side by side, which is crucial because the organizational handoffs themselves and the primary source of processing delays and friction. Our model is built on an objective evidence base, including SWIFT messaging protocols, bank for international settlement, correspondent banking data, and the World Bank remittance metrics. For scope, the model focuses purely on a standard cross-border cross-currency transaction, excluding domestic wires and cash-based money transfer operators. Now let's trace the actual process path, starting with the sender and the sending bank. The customer initiates the process either by physically visiting a branch or logging onto a legacy online portal. They undergo a tedious manual step of completing a transfer built from containing complex IBAN or SWIFT codes and recipient data. Once they accept a rigid coded FX rate and pay upfront fees, they enter a passive gateway waiting for a bank response. Behind the scenes, the sending bank split operation between the front office and the back office compliance. The front office captures the details while the bank office runs vital, time consuming, know your client and anti money laundering and sanction checks. If the transaction passes, the bank applies its markup FX rate, debits the sender's account, and manually generates a legacy SWIFT message. The bank then evaluates a decision gateway. If they have a direct relationship with the paid bank, they send it directly. If not, which is common, it must be routed through a correspondent bank. This brings us to the most problematic phase of the legacy network, the correspondent banking box. When a correspondent bank receives the SWIFT message, it settles the funds using a complex, pre-funded network of Nostro and Vostro accounts. For providing this liquidity, they deduct an intermediary fee right out of the principal transfer amount. As highlighted by the BIS, a single transfer may loop through several correspondent banks in sequence, which individual institutions taking its own financial cut and adding days to the timeline. Once the fund when the funds finally clear the intermediary chain, they arrive at the receiving bank. Even though the funds have already been vetted, the receiving bank runs its own duplicate compliance checks, deducts an additional receiving fee if applicable, handles the physical currency conversion to the local denomination